know they've already got you.
Yeah.
If you have an Xbox 360 and you like games, then you either have an opinion about Forza and Gears of War, and you're either for or against. Like this is not going to be the moment where you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it now. It's too late for that. It's we are on kind of our postscripts for this generation of games with those franchises. Like we shouldn't see a fourth Gears of War. We shouldn't see a fourth Forza on this. I mean, a third Forza on this system on this hardware. But
well, they probably don't want to put the money into it either.
But wait,
right?
you aren't you? Like that Gears game, I'm sure they didn't announce any dates or anything, but are they holding that for next gen? Like, is that the
No.
idea?
It's
They're
coming
not,
this-
right?
Yeah.
So you are going to see a
Microsoft
Gears game.
didn't have. I mean, neither of I didn't see Sony, so we'll have to talk about that later. But it seems like they are both being real quiet about anything remotely next generation hardware related.
And so it does seem like this. Yeah, I mean that it's interesting that this is like a protracted cycle, and that you're going to see a fourth Gears game on this console. I mean, for better or for worse, it's like I don't know.
Sony's doing it too. They've got a new God of War that feels very out of place. Like both of those companies are just filling for time at this point.
That's so interesting that both of those. It's like they
Yeah,
don't want to put
stretching.
a 4. They don't want to put a 4 on either of those games,
Yeah.
which is weird. It's like is 4 like a is that bad?
I mean, they
like,
did it to Halo because they've already acknowledged like we're going to make at least 3 more of these. But
Sure, and also there was ODST and Reach in there, so this is like what Halo 6.
at some point it just starts to look silly though.
I'll tell you what's baffling about the Forza thing, though, is so I did not make it to the Microsoft press conference, so I was watching it on Spike TV. Perhaps you've heard of it.
Interesting.
And after the press conference, like they were doing this huge block of programming for all the press conferences where they showed Microsoft and they showed EA, and they had content, programming in between. So they had Dan Greenawalt from Turn 10 giving a live demo of Forza Horizon there on TV on Spike, just not during the actual press conference, which I would love to know what the logic was, what the decision-making process was that led them to that.
A somewhat hilarious demo, too, that Dan Greenwald was where he was talking about the world of Colorado.
Yes, the world of
and creating
Colorado.
the original world of Colorado. It's like I don't think that's a world.
Dan.
I don't think that's actually a world
Dan,
that
that's a
you're
state.
talking about.
That's a state, Dan.
Yeah.
Yes, and there was some other weird stuff during that as well. But that decision there, like I'm having a hard time kind of processing and making heads or tails of what brought them to that. So
I don't know what to make of the the smart screen.
Smart
glass.
Can we
So-
talk about
so that- you know what, that's
I don't even
actually-
remember the damn name.
Oh my God!
But
So
was that good?
that's probably the other like really
That's the
interesting
tech
thing.
thing.
very
that was
excited
supposed
about
to be
this.
impressive.
I'm very excited about smart glass because that's a term that they use internally, and sometimes we hear Microsoft corporate terminology at Double Fine, and I'm like, wow, that's hilarious. Like, smart. I didn't think it was a real thing that would ever make it to consumers.
Like you thought that was like the Durango
I
thing.
thought
Like that
it
was not
like-
going to be a real.
I thought that it was just their internal way of talking about, this thing is, or an iPad or whatever. But the fact that they're like bringing it to the consumer is
Intelligent glass.
is weird. That they're calling it smart glass, and that's
So the
they
idea-
want people to call it that, right? Like that's the idea.
Well, the idea is
They
like,
want
it's-
everybody
it
to talk
seems-
about smart glass.
It seems like the idea is that it is this platform agnostic thing, or at least this device agnostic thing, where you can use it on a Windows tablet, which I guess those exist. I don't know.
Not yet. I mean, they're not out yet.
Oh, are those just literally not out yet? Okay,
like a Windows
okay.
8 thing, yeah.
Fair enough then. But they were being very upfront. Like when they first started talking about it, I'm like, dude, I don't care about this thing for Windows Phone or Windows Tablet or whatever. And they straight up said, your iPod, your iPad. I'm like, okay, you guys are being serious about this in a way that really surprised me coming from Microsoft, because it seems like they always stubbornly cling to whatever other hardware interests that they already have. But they wised up and said, we don't need to. We can just tap into the market that's already there. There's a billion iPhones, iPods, and iPads out there that we can just leverage that, and then fucking drink Nintendo's milkshake on having a second screen that connects to games and performs that kind of touchscreen functionality. And when you look at the stuff with the Wii U controller, there's all these. It seems like there's all these limitations of they've said one of these per system. It's going to be this really expensive thing. Last time we saw it, it was not multi-touch.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's changed.
Doesn't look like it.
No, from the Ubisoft press conference, that was all just real simple gesture stuff. So potentially, if they're able to tap into that stuff with the the multi-touch functionality, like that's going to be a richer experience of the same thing.
But you'd have to own a tablet in order just to play the. Also, like if I'm sitting there playing Halo 4, am I going to go pick up a tablet and like check out?
Well, that then brings in the question of the Wii U. Are you going to do that there?
Well, that's the controller. So maybe.
If this is the controller,
But
and also
it's just a tablet companion.
Also, if it's like one of 3 controllers for the Wii U, so
Right. Well, if it comes with the system, then it's like it's there, right? Like
Sure.
I have an iPad, but like it's totally reasonable for somebody to be a college student, say, and have an Xbox and an HDTV, and not have an iPad or a tablet or whatever.
You're not wrong about that. Of the fact that you're going to open up the box for the Wii U and you're going to have one of those things. It's there. It's not something you have to go and get.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, peripherals, like, you got to convince people to program for the peripheral, and the install base is, by definition, smaller than the actual install base for the console. So it's
Right.
like, it's always a fucking hard sell.
But
Super Scope.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that there are probably more iPod Touches, iPhones, and iPads than there are Wiis. All told.
right.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about an install base? It's out there.
Well,
Sure,
on top of
sure.
You don't necessarily the stuff that you're talking about. You don't necessarily have to play the game with it. Like there's like supplemental stuff. Like like when Mass Effect had that app where you could
Right.
like look at all the codexes and stuff.
You mean
and,
that
all the-
terrible? Oh, that
No, not
was
the
good.
game app.
Not
Like the one
Galaxy
where you can
War
like do all the
one.
research stuff
Yeah, yeah.
for the games. It's like I imagine they're going to do stuff like that where you're looking at like schematics and specs, and there'll probably be some gameplay stuff in there, but it's like it doesn't seem like their focus is on play the game with your iPhone. That doesn't seem like what they're trying
I
to
guess
do.
I'm thinking kind of best case scenarios for this stuff because grain of salt on any of this stuff because when they first showed the Kinect and all the dazzling things that it was going to be
Right.
able to do, it's like, all right, you guys are being pretty ballsy here with what you're saying this thing's going to do. I'll wait and see, and if you can deliver, and they maybe haven't. They haven't. Let's just say
Yeah,
they haven't.
They've delivered pieces.
There are fleeting moments
Yeah.
for sure. Every once in a while, it's like, oh hey, this is kind of magical, but
Yeah.
most of the time it's a
Like a guy in a hot dog suit burning in lava.
yes.
You see that every once in a while, and you're like, hey, that's pretty cool.
Magic things can happen with Kinect.
I don't know when that you've ever seen that. I don't know. I'm just.
You're
Throwing
just
it out
spit
there.
again, just free
Again, yeah, just
association.
free,
You went from
whatever.
Jello
Who
to
knows?
hot dog suit.
So
man.
were you like dropping
Wherever.
acid before you walked in here? What's going on?
No.
That was not
I'm
a
convinced.
convincing no. That denial was
No,
just
I am not on hallucinogenics right now.
swing and a miss on that one.
It's just it comes from working with Mr. Schaefer.
Okay.
I think.
I imagine
there
working
might be
with Tim
something in
Schafer
the water.
is like doing acid.
I bet he does a
Might
lot
be
of
something
acid.
in the water. It was, the weirdest thing when we were working on Psychonauts. Every time there would be like some journalists would write like a piece about Psychonauts, they would always be like, "Oh my God, are the developers high? This shit is so crazy."
I
and
hate-
it just
I
got
hate
to be
that
like
so
this
much.
thing. It got to be like just this running gag where it's like, "Oh look, here's another piece in the press, and yes, there's a reference to acid in here," and it's like, no, we're not.
I'm
To
still
be fair,
not
that
in
game
like
is
denial.
really good.
We're
when
not
you're
like on
high. It's really good.
drugs.
That
We're just
that
making
bothers
cool
me
video games.
because you don't have to be on drugs to come up with crazy ideas. And in fact, I imagine that being on drugs would probably hinder a lot of the more taxing parts of game development.
For sure.
So you speaking
For
from
sure.
firsthand experience,
Yes.
that it's tougher
Yes,
when you're
it's
high.
hard to work when you're really drunk. But when you're a little drunk,
How's that working for
Magic
you?
fine.
happens.
Yeah,
it's working great right now.
fantastic.
This fantastic beer. Thanks
Uh,
for providing
getting
this.
Yeah, happily. All the Pabst Blue Ribbon you can drink.
Oh my God.
That's how we do
I think
here
this is heaven.
at CBS
Cheers,
Interactive.
cheers to you, CBS Interactive.
Salute.
If I may steer things back to Microsoft for a second, I would say there was one other highlight for that, and that was the South Park
Yes.
demo.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
that
okay.
game in some kind of motion.
All right, you know what?
was
Turning
great.
it back around. I am not
Yep.
shitting so much on the Microsoft press conference. You're right, and I think Alex, you phrased it best. Matt Stone and Trey Parker were the first people on the stage that did not look like robots.
Yeah, they were human. They were the first human
Yeah.
beings that like had identifiable emotions
and they were
on screen.
clearly up there, like no teleprompting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know Nick Chester from Harmonix confirmed that from backstage.
Yeah, I
Like,
was watching.
They just come out there and just
The only,
go.
the only thing that scrolled were time cues. Like,
Oh, nice.
30 seconds
Yeah.
left.
I was wondering
10
if that was
seconds
like
left.
built into their deal. Like, we're not coming up there if you're going to make us teleprompt.
Oh, I bet it, like if like during rehearsals or if they'd even show up for rehearsals, if they'd just be like, no, we're not going to tell
We're
you.
gonna do
got
our.
that far.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what the Beatles did when they were on. They refused to have any
Right.
kind of script. They did not show up to any kind of rehearsal. They were just like, okay, go on stage and just kill time.
Well, Cliff Bleszinski similarly,
Yeah.
like does not.
I thought they
script
were the
his
most
stuff for
real
that.
people all day,
Yes.
not just at Microsoft.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, they could clearly look at everything that was happening and have the same reaction we had to it. It was like, really, people fucking talk like this? This is what's happening? Jesus Christ!
And yeah, the little jab that Trey had at the start of just
was
kind of
great.
just
Yeah.
gassing everything else that had been going on up to that moment in the press conference.
It really made me wonder, like, at the end of the day, like, why don't I know the answer why? It's because the PR. and
Let's do the
PR and marketing people are too frightened. But wouldn't it be great if these press conferences were a little more unscripted? If they just trusted the people who made these games to go up there, because they know the shit, they know their games, they've been working on them. If they could go up there with some bullet points,
Sure.
they have an agenda.
So this guy who's been going on a Jello sort of offshoot most of the evening, you're gonna
Yeah.
trust him to go up on stage
Him,
and
no.
talk.
He gets a teleprompter.
I would, what? You're not. See, that's the thing, though. Like, I completely agree with you, actually, even though I'm, like, sort of like, oh. Because, yeah, I would love to see the people who are making these things getting up there and just, like, honestly talking about them.
What's the worst that could happen?
What's giant enemy crabs? Giant enemy crabs are the worst
Well,
thing that
I
can
think
happen,
stakes
But, like,
have
that's
raised
okay.
Based on historical fact.
yes.
stakes have raised now that all of these press conferences are live on television. Like
Right.
Microsoft is not going to none of these Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, no one is going to let just some developer go up on stage in front of a global audience and just speak his mind about his game.
Well, I don't mean like go off extemporizing about whatever, you know.
Well, that's the thing is that you can't take that chance, so it's read the damn
Because then you get
scripts.
James Cameron.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that was
It's like, okay, we'll give James Cameron carte blanche because he's this big creative force, and we are lucky to have him involved in anything that we're doing. And then
What was the count on that? 25 minutes?
something like that. Yeah.
But here's the
They
thing:
let
there
him
were
roll,
people who
didn't they?
who
Damn.
were up there who have talked, who we've seen over and over. We know they can speak, and a lot of these people we know in real life, like Lucy Bradshaw at Maxis is a great example. Incredibly intelligent woman, super bright, knows her shit inside out. But when she gets up there in front of the teleprompter, it's just a little, you could tell that like it's she's just a little.
It's like
stiff.
super wooden.
You know?
Yeah,
And
it's.
I kind of want to
yeah.
go like, man, if they just let Lucy talk for like 2 minutes and tell us why SimCity is great, it would be more interesting than having her do this kind of like, in SimCity, you are going to run your own,
But that's the
we are
problem.
excited.
They're not writing the copy for this stuff.
Oh,
Nobody
I know.
who's
It's
doing
not
these
their
demos is
fault.
writing the copy. Yeah.
Right. It's not her fault
But,
at
like,
all.
why
So someone
not?
in communications is like deciding what this person.
And that's what I'm
should
saying.
talk
I
like.
wish those people wouldn't write it.
Yeah.
I wish they would just say, "Hey, Lucy, you have 2 minutes to talk about SimCity. Here's the bullet points you have to hit, but we trust you. You're Lucy Bradshaw. Go for 2 minutes."
Even if you run through the script and you have to communications has to approve it. Like but
Exactly.
still they're still crafting the message and you just work around
it's
whatever their
it's
messaging
the word
is.
for word teleprompter.
Yeah.
I think it just kills these press conferences.
Yeah, I could not agree more. But also, there's not that many people that could do it.
Yeah.
It is a rare talent of the Beatles or the guys who created South Park.
To be fair, the Beatles weren't that good.
That can get up on a
That
stage.
was weird. You just totally pointed at me when you said the Beatles. Don't do that.
Wow.
Don't do that. That's no.
So,
like
how-
Ringo Starr.
I wonder how many developers would actually want to do that.
A lot
though, right?
don't.
Like,
Yeah.
exactly.
A
like,
lot
I
of them
imagine most
don't.
would never
Yeah,
want to get up
that's
on
probably
stage.
true.
and
A lot of
just
people who
speak
do
like
those
that.
demos are unhappy to be doing those
Sure.
demos because they don't like to talk. They don't like to be the PR
course.
person. They want
But
to
how?
make
But
the
it
games.
doesn't do anybody any good to have them up there. Then I mean, what good does it do? Because everybody on Twitter is all sitting there making fun of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's why they don't want to do it. So it's like this. It's this.
It's
like
crazy,
an
though, 'cause if
Ouroboros
you
cycle
have-
where it's constantly. Yeah.
If you have a PR guy doing it, though, it comes off even worse.
Yes, I
I would
agree with
rather
you there.
have an
I want
unhappy
a PR guy up
developer who's all fake and wooden reading the script, because at least they give a shit about the game, as opposed to like somebody who's just. you
Oh,
know.
I'm not suggesting PR people go up there. God knows.
Lord.
No, I totally agree with you, and that's weird. Like I don't know. I think that that was really hard for me actually, was to like try to do the, like I thought there was going to be a great PR plan from,
On high.
the corporation we were working with, but that.
Oh, no,
didn't
they don't
really-
have those.
That didn't really turn out. That's not so much a thing for a downloadable title as So we were sort of left to our own devices. So
No bus benches.
No
No,
bus
no,
benches.
no today appearances.
We didn't have any Slurpee cups either. It was sad. But so like I was I did a lot of
Who you
the
think you are, Farmville? Come on.
interviews and shit, and it was like